Hello there, welcome to the PlugBox Podcast, where we discuss all things EV and renewables and generally have a damn good chinwag. Anyway, on with the show. Hello there.
Good evening. How are you?
Oh, splendid. Another week, another PlugBox Podcast.
Well, it's another week, but we've been a bit delinquent, have we not?
Oh, I mean, we had this little holiday, didn't we? This little hiatus where we didn't go anywhere, and then I think last week it's fair to say life got in the way.
And lots of news has happened in the time that we've not spoken. We've got
Lots of newses.
Yeah, multiple newses. What are we talking about today, Pete?
I don't know. Avail me with your list.
How do you know I've got a list?
You've always got a list. It's part of the script now, Pete.
It is. Yeah.
Episode
yeah, I have got a list.
16?
No, really?
15? 16? I'll check later.
Episode 16. You can edit that out if it's a problem. Okay, yeah. Welcome everybody to the PlugBox Podcast. This week we are going to be talking about Ellesmere Port, and they are going to be producing EVs. So their future is secured. That's really good news. We are talking about Bugatti Rimac. Interesting story that we'll cover in a little bit. Right-hand drive Model Ys. I think everybody in Europe has been waiting for this car. There's been some development in news in right-hand drive Model Ys. But we're going to start up, I think, with Taycan, Porsche Taycan, Pete. What's going on over there?
Well, they're being recalled, aren't they? And
43,000 of them.
Is that all of them?
Porsche has recalled 43,000 Taycan and Taycan Cross Turismo, and we do like a Cross Turismo.
I love a Cross Turismo. I think it's really strange because one, if Tesla had to do a recall like this, everyone will be up in arms. But Porsche seem to have got away with it. And the other strange thing about it is, I guess for those not aware, this recall is for power loss. So basically your car just gives up at some point. Or goes into limp mode or whatever.
But what it says is software issues could cause EV motors to randomly shut down in 0.3% of cases. That's not much, is it?
Your car gives up.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is Porsche, I think at least America, or Porsche America or Porsche US, whatever it's called, I'm sure I butchered the name, in their letter or press statement or whatever said, well, we could do a firmware update over the air, but cars need to come back to the dealer anyway, which is a bit odd because either it means they're not confident in their ability to do stuff OTA, or it means that whilst it's in the dealer, they want to have a look at something else. But do you know what I mean? Like, if it's a software fix, it's a software fix, and you can send it over the internet. But if it's something more nefarious, then it's a little bit odd. But as I say, if it was Tesla, everyone would be up in arms. But seeing as it's Porsche, it's gone under the radar.
Correct. And Porsche themselves have actually said that they cannot work out if there is a specific set of circumstances or conditions that cause this. It can happen or occur at any speed. And it's the occurrence rate, as I mentioned a moment ago, 0.3%, so very low. And the car can be restarted if the issue occurs. So owners aren't going to get stuck by the side of the road. They can keep moving. So it doesn't sound like a majorly serious issue, but it's 43,000 cars globally, 4,000 or 5,000 cars in the UK for UK-based listeners. So, gone under the radar, this one, a little bit. But it's their first EV, so you've got to expect teething problems. And what many of our listeners probably don't realise is vehicle recalls happen a lot more commonly than maybe most customers realise.
Yeah, I mean, we won't talk about the thingy, but there's recalls out all the time. And you remember the Takata airbag thing? Like, I think most vehicle manufacturers have still got a page on their website about airbag recalls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big issue. It's been around for a while.
But anywho, it's I'm sure they'll fix it.
Well, speaking of Tesla,
Is that
UK
a segue?
market share, Pete. Yeah, it is a little segue because you wrote to me earlier about a story of the UK market share of Tesla equaling that of diesel. Where did you hear about this?
I think it was something on the Twitters, I think, and then we went into it. It's but I guess it basically comes out of the SMMT figures, right? So SMMT is what was it? Society for the
Society of Motor Manufacturing and
Traders or something. So basically, the industry lobby group in the UK for all things cars, and that's its good and bad points. But nonetheless, every month they put out figures on new vehicle registrations, and so sales of Tesla basically meant that their market share was equal to that of diesel, like all diesel.
That's great.
Yeah, which is quite staggering, really.
See, also as a little segue, that full self-drive is starting to be rolled out in more numbers in the US. There's more videos appearing from influencers in the States.
Yeah,
It does look remarkable, I have to say.
It does look really good, but the thing for me is, I don't want to get hung up on the name because I think Tesla catch a lot of flack for just being the first to use like autopilot or full self-driving or whatever. But fundamentally, it's not level 5 autonomy.
No, they're playing a game with that, aren't they, in terms of what level it is? Because if it becomes level 5, they have to go into another level of regulation checking or authorization.
Yes, this is what we talked about in podcast past, right? With maybe some of the range figures or some of the acceleration figures, where Tesla, let's say, push the envelope in how much leeway they do or don't give themselves with what they have to declare. And as you rightly say, this is another one where they're still registering the cars as, I think, level 1 systems, level 2 systems. So basically, it's hands on, eyes on. But then at the same time, they're doing these kind of beta programs where they're just like, it is full self-driving, but you still have to be attentive. And it's just like, well, either it is or it isn't. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I'm not against it. I just think the way they're going around it is dangerous, and it's just one of those things where I think they're exploiting the fact that regulation often takes many years to catch up. But if someone gets hurt, then that's when it becomes an issue, right?
Correct. There's no hint of when it's going to be rolled out anywhere else around the world. I know that they're focusing on their home market where they can do the majority of their testing first of all, and I guess the rest will come later.
Yes, that's one of the things before where, Uncle Elon's kind of gone on a bit of a rant about competitors. So, namely Waymo, which is Google's company, right, where they have kind of like level 5 pods. So a pod rolls up and you get in and it takes you to where you want. And I think that's in Colorado somewhere. Colorado or Arizona. Anyway, it's some city, I think, in the US where there's a pilot program. And that is a driverless pod that takes you from A to B, and it uses a suite of sensors as well as LiDAR. But
famously discredited by Mr. Musk.
Well, yeah, he says it's a bit of a. He thinks that it's a crutch, right? And you shouldn't need it if you can use vision, which I kind of agree with him in principle. Like, I don't have laser beams coming out of my eyes. I only use the visible wavelength of light to navigate my way around streets. But at the same time, he says, that their system learns and it's reacting to what it sees as opposed to it being mapped or using some data. It's doing things in real time. But then, as you say, it seems to be much better in kind of their local area or local market than it is worldwide. So it's just like, how is it actually doing it in real time if it's better in one location than the other? Like, surely it should be the same. It should be at the same level everywhere. So it's a little bit odd.
I've driven in many countries around the world, and in terms of stress levels due to difficulty of the roads, the US is very low. It's quite an easy market to drive in, and I can well imagine developing full self-drive there is somewhat easier than, single lane country roads in the UK, for example. But, okay. On the subject of Tesla, Model Ys in right-hand drive. So Tesla's sales have begun in Hong Kong at the beginning of this month, which of course has led to a lot of people asking, what about other markets, right-hand drive markets around the world? So the UK, Japan, New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, India. They're coming, Pete.
Is India right-hand drive, is it?
I believe so.
Oh, I never knew that. There you go. Every day's a school day, Pete.
Do you want to know something else? You can't retail a green car in India.
Green car? You mean a green-coloured car?
Correct.
Is that a military thing?
Exactly, you got it.
Oh,
so manufacturers are not allowed to sell a green car in India.
Interesting.
Isn't it? Yeah. Ever the provider of useful facts on this podcast.
That's it. But as you say, it's I think Model Y made in Shanghai, right, is going to be shipped to Europe, but just in left-hand drive and some markets in Europe. But as you quite rightly say, some other markets where it's right-hand drive as well. So as we just said, UK is a massive market for Tesla. So why are they shipping a right-hand drive car to Hong Kong or wherever else, but they're not going to ship it to the UK? Seems strange, because I think they could sell as many as they could build. But
we mustn't
I think
overlook
slowly
the fact
it's
that
coming.
Berlin is coming. Giga Berlin.
I think it's coming slower than what was otherwise envisaged, though.
It's taking longer than planned. I think they have had a multitude of red tape to get through there when compared to somewhere like Texas.
Yeah, I mean, he should have known, right, with how long it's taken to build the airport there in Berlin. But it was never going to be thrown up as quickly as what the Chinese achieved, or as you say, what's been done in Texas. Like, the regulatory burden is much higher. But anyway, I think the biggest telltale for the delay really is that they've started to build cars in China to ship to Europe. So I think that says or speaks volumes, really.
It's not far off. I know that there are a lot of people waiting for this car in right-hand drive form in the UK. The rumour control is that it's scheduled to start selling here, and by here I mean the UK, in September. So, well, let's wait and see.
Are you buying one?
I'd love to. I think it's a brilliant option. I really do. But no, I won't be buying one.
Oh, why?
Well,
go on.
There are other thingies that get in the way.
Yeah, and I think it'd be the same as the US. I think they'll sell as many as they can build. We know the most popular kind of car or segment here is like the CSUV. So yeah, I think it'll fly off the shelves or whatever the automotive equivalent is.
Fly off the website these days.
Very true.
So before we get on to Bugatti Rimac, let's talk about Ellesmere Port.
I mean, it's not the nicest part of the world, but it is overwhelmingly good news.
It is. So it's another big plant in the UK that is announcing good news in recent weeks. So Vauxhall, part of the Stellantis group, have a plant in Ellesmere Port. Now, Ellesmere Port, for those people that don't know, is a relatively industrial town, I would say, in the northwest of England. And Stellantis are investing £100 million to turn the facility into a dedicated production facility for electric vans. So a huge investment on their part. I think it is welcomed by the employees up there, because that plant has historically in recent years always been on a bit of a knife edge in terms of whether it would have a future or not. So I think this is a great piece of news for anybody either working directly there or as part of the supply chain. So
because I thought Ellesmere Port made either the Vauxhall or the Opel Astra and Sport Tourer.
They did. Yeah, so they were always historically known as home of the Astra, and they did originally produce, if I'm right in saying, please correct me, anybody, if you think I'm wrong, both drives of the Astra. But in more recent years, it was only producing right-hand drive. So it was getting a very limited diversity of specs of vehicles there. And it was, I'm sure, very close more than once to being closed. So great news that they're talking about producing the Citroën e-Berlingo, the Peugeot e-Partner, and the Vauxhall Combo e-commercial vans.
You going to be buying one of those?
I love a van. Do like a van. Although the electric vans I am a little bit partial to, and there are several. The Arrival van that is painted up in the livery of Royal Mail, it looks like Postman Pat's van. I think it's very cute. Also quite like it in the UPS paint scheme. But, and this is the controversial one, the Canu van as well. Big fan of that. I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, similar to some other news that we've seen, I think the UK government here are stumping up some cash, but I think it's all too easy to sign a check. It's funny money. It's not real, is it? I think the thing that has made the biggest difference is if they put a big vehicle order in. They can't do it through the Royal Mail anymore because the Royal Mail's private, and we won't get into the politics of that. But if they said to Stellantis or Vauxhall or Opel or whatever they're called these days, we're going to buy 10,000, 100,000 electric vans off you, then surely that's a better investment and a better lifeline than it is just to say, here's a check for a few quid, go and do things with it. But anyway, who am I?
Here's a bit of history for you. Ellesmere Port opened in 1964 to produce the Vauxhall Viva compact car.
Back when you were a lad.
Steady on. Not that old. Various generations of the Astra have been produced there since 1979. So it's got quite a history.
Now it's going to be making vans.
It is going to be making vans, but clean ones, so that's okay.
That's good news.
It is good news. But I think the big news of the recent weeks, Bugatti Rimac. Save the best for last, I think.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've had chance to watch the presentation yet. It was, I don't know, it was quite odd. I think it was nice that they did it, but it was a bit businessy and it was a bit convoluted.
I think it was a business decision, really, isn't it? It's an amalgamation, or what would you call it? It's
M&A.
Yes.
Yeah. So there is a really good slide actually on Rimac's website, and it's probably floating around on Google Images of various other automotive outlets, where bless Mate Rimac, he tried to explain the new structure, and it's difficult by the medium of podcast for me to explain, but I'll endeavour nonetheless. But I think this rumour's been circulating for over a year, maybe 18 months, that Rimac, this young startup EV company from Croatia, is going to buy Bugatti somehow.
It's remarkable, actually.
It's almost
phenomenal.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you look at kind of the new structure, you can kind of see why it's taken so long. So obviously Bugatti was bought at the end of the last century by Volkswagen Group in conjunction with Porsche. And of course, Rimac started by Mate Rimac himself. And now there's been some weird share flip whereby Porsche have got a 45% stake in the new Bugatti Rimac company, and Rimac Group, the new Rimac Group, have 55% of it. But Rimac Group also have a 100% controlling stake of Rimac Technologies. So where Rimac basically get all their cash from is not the hypercars, which they only make a handful of, but it's making basically high voltage components, battery packs, software, infotainment systems, etc. for third-party OEMs. So understandably, there's a Chinese wall between the two. But nonetheless, there's this Rimac Group that has Bugatti Rimac as the two kind of car brands on one side of the wall. And then on the other side of Rimac Group is Rimac Technologies that work with a plethora of manufacturers.
Yeah.
But then kind of Porsche own 45% of Bugatti Rimac, but they also own 24% of the new Rimac Group. And Hyundai, from some strange place, now own 12% of the new Rimac Group.
This is very confusing, Pete. I have to say that Drive Tribe have put a really good summary of what this all means in layman's terms without the numbers.
Yeah, so what it basically means, I would imagine for the next 5 to 10 years, is Bugatti will continue to do their own thing. Rimac will do their own thing. They did some really good presentation material on the new kind of Rimac campus in Croatia, which looks fabulous, to be honest. It looks kind of like the Google campus, but in Croatia with a test track outside. But yeah, it's very complicated, but I think it ensures the future for Bugatti. And as you say, it's quite incredible that kind of this young guy, I think he's younger than us, which is a bit sad, but he's younger than us, has managed to buy Bugatti from Volkswagen, basically. And
that's right.
Bless him, he still has 37% of the whole company, which is, again,
that's astonishing. Yeah,
quite extraordinary, really, how little is given away in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, he now owns Bugatti and a bit of a unicorn company out there in Croatia.
So Rimac, they've not even delivered 100 cars to customers yet. And they bought out Bugatti.
Yeah, so that's the thing, isn't it? Is even if you know who Rimac are, you think of the C1 that Hammond crashed down a hill, and you think of maybe you think of the new one that just released, the Nevera, was called the C2 before. But as you say, I think they made 6 or 7 of the concept one. They haven't made a customer C2 or Nevera yet. Yeah, as you say, they've just bought out Bugatti from Volkswagen Group. So it's the Rimac technology side of it. So yeah, I think, Porsche not only have owned a portion of Rimac for a while, but a lot of their HV stuff, electric motors and whatnot, is coming from Rimac. A lot of the high-end stuff that's in Koenigsegg's. So Koenigsegg, obviously the Swedish hypercar company, they had their Regera some years ago, and pretty much all the high voltage stuff in there is from Rimac. And subsequent cars, they're also doing some strange take on a hybrid. But again, Rimac's a key supplier for that, as well as many other OEMs that either they produce parts for or do consulting for. So that's probably where over 90% of the revenue comes from that's allowed them to do this. But it's amazing that this little startup company from Croatia, which is just like, what? Croatia? Like, okay, the film Game of Thrones there, but
it's not where you associate a cutting edge electric hypercar comes from. But
No, absolutely
Yeah,
not.
Bugatti is a profitable company. It's a reliable brand. It's been around for a number of years. So Rimac, of course, are going to benefit from this in more ways than one. They're going to get some revenue out of it, so they can start investing in more things. But it does, of course, mean for any purists out there that the chances of seeing another W16 hypercar Bugatti are unlikely.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll keep the current one limping on until they finish the run of the Chiron. Yeah, I think for any new model, would it still be a hybrid? I don't think so. I don't think there's much point really. The Navara makes nearly 2,000 horsepower. Why would you need to lug around an engine with you as well? But yeah, when you look how long the Veyron run for, the Chiron's probably likely to run the same. I think they want to make, is it 500, I think, in total of all the different variants. So there's still some more special editions and one-offs and this, that, and the other to come. So I don't think they've all been allocated yet either, but nonetheless, I think that'll keep limping on for a while. And yeah, any new model, I'm sure, will carry over Rimac's technology.
Probably the most exciting move I've seen, or the most exciting business move in the last 4 weeks or so. It's good.
I don't think it'll be the last EV company that buys up a legacy automaker, if I'm honest with you. I mean, this one's grabbed all the headlines because it's kind of glitzy and glamorous, and everyone's heard of Bugatti. But there's a lot of other, not prestigious, but auto companies that actually aren't worth a lot of cash. If you think of like some of the Japanese ones, for instance, like Suzuki and Mazda, like
but Suzuki make the Jimny.
They do, and the Jimny's a great car if it was electric. It's a mini G wagon, isn't it? But when you look at the market cap, it's not a lot of cash.
A lot of these technology companies that are dabbling in making cars, and we have to say that Tesla started that way. Apple is probably going to be another one if ever they elect to launch a car. There's definitely some merit in a tech company buying up a traditional legacy automaker so that they can get the panel gaps right from day one, because most traditional manufacturers have had plenty of years practice doing it and can do it. Where they struggle is the technology and the software. So a partnership or a takeover in that area only serves to benefit both sides, really.
Yeah, and as you say, big tech companies, we'll include Tesla in that because I love talking about Tesla, but as you say, Apple or Amazon or Google, if they really wanted to do it, they've all got hundreds of billions somehow on their balance sheets. When you look at, as I say, we've picked on Suzuki or Mazda, it's going to sound crazy, but they're only in inverted commas, they're only worth like single digits billions. So you could swoop in and, get 4 or 5, half a dozen factories that are, as you quite rightly say, tooled up to make cars with nice panel gaps and good quality. And they've got a box-ready car company, and it's cost them very little compared to what's on their balance sheets.
I think we've dried up, Pete. Are we at the end?
No, you forgot about something.
Have I? What have I forgotten?
Yeah. Well, we talked about Stellantis earlier, but there's some other Stellantis news.
Do please furnish with me, because it's not on my list.
Are you that old? You forgot about it already?
Which one?
Well, there's some exciting news from over the pond.
Then please enlighten our listeners.
And you.
And me. Yes.
So, whilst we've already seen trucks in the US going electric, whether that's a box fresh one like Rivian, or whether it's a legacy brand like Ford and the F-150 Lightning, Stellantis, or I think Ram, or Dodge, have said they're also going to do an electric truck, but not until 2024, which seems a little crazy to me that the competition are doing things pretty much now, and they're going to do something in basically 4 years' time.
Now, this might be pointing out the obvious, but that's a little late.
I'm glad you agree, Pete. Yeah,
Yes.
so I think Fiat Chrysler, we've mentioned before that they're now past CEO Sergio Marchionne was a prominent anti-EV.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it sounds like we're having some technical issues here on Stereo tonight with our live podcast. Looks like we may have to end it there. I will take the liberty of ending it and say thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Please do listen to podcasts previously on YouTube, and of course, check out the website at plugbox.co.uk. Thank you very much. We'll speak to you next week. Bye now.